These Marriott TVs, by the way. This is an aside. I'm talking to the people from Marriott. I was at nice courtyard in Smyrna, Tennessee. Great, everything was perfect. Terrific hotel. So here's my deal. Ruff. He'll turn, give, Terry, busting into the open field. There he goes. Jaden Terry, Grandville with an answer, and another Bulldog lead. Give discouraged fake. Biss in the backfield, evading a man, throws out of a tackle, incomplete. Zeros across the scoreboard. Harper Woods have won the state championship, their first in school history, in unbelievable, thrilling fashion.
We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had
fake handoff, guy up the middle, big hole, bursting over the 40 to the 45-50, angling right at the 40, 35-30, racing to the 25, 20, outside the numbers, 10, 5, touchdown, Muskegon, Mackay guy, 80 yards to the house. And welcome to Dawg Pod, episode number 4 for 2024. Nate Dreyer, Chandler Timmer. Make sure you like, subscribe, follow on social media at the top of the page at MI Game Night. Check out the MGN shop as well through MichiganGameNight.com. Ton of merch, Grandville-related merch, and also general MGN merch. And we'll kind of add some more too as this season goes along. So like, subscribe, follow on social. You know all that. Off the top, I will say no broadcast of Grandville from us or from Michigan Sports Radio at Jenison. I think there will be an NFHS feed. If there's a huddle feed or something else, I'll be sure to post that. But that's kind of one thing in the schedule because we have a West Shore game of the week, and it's kind of related to some other MSR sponsorship and blah, 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 blah. It doesn't matter. But we're doing Zeeland East, Zeeland West. So, yeah. All right. Let's start the show. Well... So it was 12-10 at the half. Grandville played Rockford last week.
Oh, okay. Yep, that's right.
So it was 12-10 at the half, and it was 37-20 at the end. And there's a lot that happened before that 12-10, after the 37-20, or before the 37-20, and everything else in between. I think it's going to go down to, and oh, by the way, we've got Ethan Newville, Grandville senior quarterback, on the show. We're going to get to him in just a second. Let's just kind of start. I think the main thing we learned in this game, despite that score being 17 points apart, is this is a Grandville team that certainly is set up to be able to compete with Rockford this year, and I'm sure the team is ruining what was a massive missed opportunity for them. I think we won't sugarcoat it, and I think we are known for sugarcoating on this show, and we weren't there live, so also there's only so much we can do. But I think there's some things we won't sugarcoat this week, and that's a massive, massive missed opportunity from where that game was at the half to what it wound up being.
No, for sure. I think kind of opposite of the first couple weeks of the season where the game script favorably fell kind of the Bulldogs' way, where at the half they've got the lead. It's not a 3-score deficit that they're trying to come from behind against a really talented team and fighting for their lives, and then having to come back at the end. It was kind of falling their way favorably, even though there was some mistakes early on, as there had been the first couple weeks of the season. But, yeah, kind of a game where things were going their way in the second half. If they get the ball and can kind of score right away in that second half, they can set the tone. And you're looking at a game where kind of a classic Bulldogs type of game where they're able to control the football. They can stay a score or two ahead, and if the defense gets another stop or a turnover in there, that's just a bonus. But things did not go that way. Rockford making some adjustments and making some plays when they needed to kind of flip the football game around.
Yeah, and we'll get into that, and we'll get into much more as well as Grandville does play Jenison this week as the Bulldogs look to no longer be called the best winless team in the state of Michigan. While there's something to be said for it, I think it's something that the team, it's the last thing you want to be called, no matter how good you are. If you are the best of anything, this is not what you want to be the best of. Right now, Grandville is, I think, pretty easily the best winless team in the state of Michigan, and would beat a lot of 3-0 teams in the state of Michigan, but it's just the way things have fallen to begin the year. I think this is a good chance. As we say every week, no one cares about what we have to say. They're here for Ethan Newville. Here's Ethan. All right, welcome back, everyone, to Game Night, and welcome to our Coach's Corner segment. Joined this week by Grandville's senior quarterback and captain, Ethan Newville, as the Bulldogs look to continue their OK Red season this week against Jenison. Ethan, thanks for your time. How are you doing tonight?
Doing great. How are you?
I'm doing really well, thanks, and excited to go over a lot of stuff here. And, of course, we're going to start with last week and the loss to Rockford, a game you guys, of course, led at the half, ultimately fall. Down the stretch, a tough loss, and I think probably a game that you guys as a team are going to look at and probably see a lot of missed opportunities and a lot of different facets of the game from that second half. I guess kind of tell us a little bit of the mindset, what practice has been like, and what you guys have been able to focus on and come away from that Rockford game.
Yeah, I mean, you said it perfectly. That second half, we kind of came out flat, and they took advantage of our mistakes. So that's really just what practice has been on this week, not having that, stretch where we're just making mistakes and not playing to our full potential. And so practice this week has been intense. And, as Stiegel always says, the next game is always the most important. So Jenison's the only thing on our mind right now, and we're getting ready for them.
Yeah, that's good. It's a game that there's certainly, and there's a lot of things still positive come out of it. One, I want to talk to you about one play in particular. I think you probably know what play this is. You fumbled the snap. You then roll out and you just wildly are able to. Wildly is not the term because it was a well placed ball, but you find Easton in the back corner of the end zone somehow. You guys had another connection like that the week before as well, but. I mean, take us through the mindset and what's going through your head as this play's going on, because it's got to be from absolute fear of how this play started to, all right, that's a touchdown. Great job, guys.
Yeah, it was a busted play. I took the wrong step and I hit into my running back and the ball just popped out. So, and then, I'm thinking, oh crap, I'm just distraught, and then I grab the ball and I look down there and I see Easton, great ball skills. I know I can throw it to him. I can trust him. So I just said, he's down there somewhere, and just gave him a shot.
No, that's good. I mean, it's obviously, like you said, though, Easton's a guy to go to, so often. And this year, you look at the passing threat that you guys have been every single week. This has been one of the better passing offenses that we've seen, Grandville have. And you've got weapons. I mean, you have a Gibby Connolly that's a Grand Valley State, tight end. You obviously have Sadinsky, and Terry has caught some passes as well. I guess, kind of tell us about that element of the offense, because you guys really have been effective in the pass game, probably more than what people certainly expect Grandville to be, and it's just one more dangerous weapon that you guys can add on.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm blessed with amazing athletes around me. Like you said, Gibby Conley, I've been playing football with him for years, so we have that connection, Grand Valley State commit. And then we got Easton. I mean, you guys have seen him. He's a highlight reel fanatic. He makes the craziest plays, and he's really one of those guys where he's a boom type of plays. He'll make your eyes pop. So, he's great ball skills too. So I can trust my receivers, and I guess that makes it way easier. Yeah, I mean, Tank, obviously, great athlete. He's going D1 somewhere. So, just being blessed with the weapons that I have around me and just getting them the ball.
Yeah, and talk a little bit about the intricacies of playing quarterback in the T, because it isn't necessarily being a pure passer in the way of a guy that has a spread offense and you take the snap and set and fire to a guy working through your reads. There's a lot more that goes into it. So kind of, take us through a quarterback and what goes through passing in this offense, being able to make, passes that aren't your typical quick on a rope type of passes. You have to have good touch, good timing. Coach Stiegel always talks about you with your timing with the pass. It's a little bit of a different mindset and approach to the pass game than a traditional spread, stand in the pocket, deliver quarterback.
Yeah, for sure. Big thing is fakes. It's with passing in the wing tee, everyone needs to, fake well and, act like it is a run. So I think our running backs do a great job of that, and it makes my life a whole lot easier because I have great linemen in front of me that, can pass block. And I think just the difference, what I would say, is just everything's like on the run. And as you said, timing. After that fake, once I look downfield, if I see him, I gotta go. There's not time to waste. And I say that it's just all urgent. It's all quick. So, like I said, I got Easton down there. I got Gibby. So they'll find their way open and make my life easier.
Yeah, how much more? So you've moved in here now to your first season as you came into the year knowing you were the guy and at the controls of the offense. We've seen you in spot starts, even going back to the playoff start a couple years ago, or second half playoff or third three quarters, whatever it was, playoff game that you had against Caledonia a couple years back. You look at your role as a quarterback, when you add in all those fakes and those elements that you're talking about, how much of a comfort level really comes into it week by week, running those fakes, running those plays, and how much more confident do you feel in yourself as a quarterback stepping in from even training camp to now where you are after 3 weeks of the year and even having played the difficult teams that you have?
Yeah, I mean, sophomore year, it was unfortunate. We had Carson Smith go down in practice that week, and then Cash Ruff breaking his hand. So I kind of had to just step in and, the biggest thing is just do your job. Mm-hmm. I mean, you get the ball to your playmakers, just do your job and do it well. That's pretty much. And I mean, having that experience sophomore year, getting taste of like varsity football, big time football, we played Caledonia. That was the team that went to the state championship, and mm-hmm. It was definitely a great learning experience for me, just being able to get in there and like understand the pressure and, not make the moment too big, I would say. So I think definitely, and last year, Cash had a little injury he was lingering with, so I was the quarterback during the summer. And I think just those reps and the, constant going through things really kind of made it like muscle memory for me. Mm-hmm. So I think I definitely was fortunate in that way to, have the reps and, put myself in a good position.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously you went in, like you said, you had that experience. So you came into this year knowing that this is going to be your offense this year. What were some of the main things that you were focused on this offseason, trying to improve heading into this season? Then even now, once we're in the season, what are some of the things that you still individually are looking at, being able to get crisper on and improve the offense that much more?
I would say just one thing that I was working on is timing. Like we've said, timing's the most important thing in the passing game. And, just carrying fakes. I mean, as a quarterback, when we run the wing tee, we run the ball a lot. So after you hand the ball off, you got to remember you got to fake your keep, because that leads to more bigger plays in the future with future plays. So, you just got to remember to do the little things right. And even if you don't have the ball, you got to go 100%. And I think that's what sets us up. One thing I would say I wanted to improve on is, just I feel like every game so far we've had like one or two plays where we're just, kind of just set ourselves back. And I feel like the teams have definitely taken advantage of it. I mean, playing the tough teams that we have, Davison, Rockford, Pick North, like those teams know how to take advantage of things. And I would just say that, just not making as many mistakes in game and just keeping it crisp.
Yeah, for sure. Other side of the ball, so of course we know about you, and we'll talk about the next level as well, as a secondary player, where you were one of the leaders last year and for the last couple of seasons in the secondary. We still do see you every once in a while on big downs in the secondary and so forth. Tell us a little bit about kind of what your mindset with that is. I know Coach Stiegel told us a story on here where from the scrimmage, you were kind of fighting even in the scrimmage to be able to stay out there defensively for a couple extra plays. So we know you're a really tough player. So tell us a little bit about that role and how much you just enjoy still being able to go out there on the defensive side of the ball in those big key moments.
Yeah, I mean, I played defensive back last year, and, defense is kind of where my heart is at times. I know I'm a quarterback now, but it's kind of like forced to be a quarterback, born to be a defensive player type of thing. I love defense. I love tackling. I love being the physical part of the game. And I think I'm fortunate enough this year that Stiegel and, the coaching staff has trusted me with going out there sometimes in key moments and, yeah, I mean, I'm going to the next level on defense, so I have that mindset, and I think it does carry the offense a little bit too. I mean, the toughness, being able to take a hit, being able to lay a hit down. Yeah, I'm very fortunate to be able to do both.
Yeah, no, we've for sure seen that. You mentioned it. So Northwood next year is where you're committed. Tell us about what went into kind of that decision, why that was the school for you, and that staff, and what about that opportunity excites you.
Yeah, I went to. They showed up at the Jenison camp and started to get on my radar. Coach Sweeney is their defensive coordinator there. We just clicked right away. I mean, the whole coaching staff, they're like a family now. And, I walked down to the campus and it just felt like home. They have great people, a great campus, and their programs are moving in the right direction. And I'm so excited to be part of it.
That's cool. Are you going to be studying some sort of business?
Yep.
I imagine it's Northwood, so.
Yeah, I'm going as I'm majoring in business, and then I might minor in like finance or accounting, something like that.
That's cool. Yeah, Northwood was on, but when I was looking at being smart with my life and career and going for business or something, I was looking because they've got the good automotive program there. So I looked at going there for that, and then I decided, nope, we're gonna be stupid, and then went for broadcasting, and the rest is history, so to speak. Let's move on to this week. Jenison, a very different team than what Jenison, of course, has been in years past. With Coach Lucas, a state champion, coming in. Defensively, the system has changed a lot. They ran a 5-2 in the past. They're a nickel base this year, so I personally don't quite know what they're going to look at like. I guess tell us kind of some of the things, not, of course, getting in X's and O's too much, but what are you guys kind of looking at this week? I know you've talked a lot about just being crisper and cleaner, and I'm sure that's going to be a big part of it. But what are some of the main things on the offensive side of the ball you guys are looking at heading into this contest?
I would just say just keeping our heads, I mean, going from, some high-level teams, like top 5 teams in the state to, Jenison, who the last couple of years haven't had the success that they necessarily wanted. But, yeah, the new coaching staff, I mean, their coach, I've heard nothing but great things about him. Obviously, state champ at Chelsea, so definitely excited for those guys over there. But, we just got to keep our heads and, just keep our minds on the task at hand and don't get too big for the moment. Don't get too low. Just do our jobs and do them well. I guess the one advantage is, him being a great coach. He's also never ran the Grandville wing tee. So that's definitely something that's hard to prepare for in a week. And, but yeah, we're excited. We're ready. Ready to get back out there and finally take care of business.
No, it'd be interesting. I'm curious to see what he does because obviously he's seen the Unity Christian tee in that state championship that they won. But you guys run the concepts in those systems are so different in terms of the speed they're run at and the way that Unity kind of goes up tempo and stuff. So I'm very curious to see how he's going to take that defense and adjust it to see you guys and their offense is more of a spread and interesting. Actually, it's probably a similar spread to some of what you guys have seen in the first couple weeks of the year. So I'm really interested to see what that game is going to look like, and hopefully you guys are able to get a win on the board. We've been saying you're the best winless team in the state of Michigan, which is a compliment in some ways, but I'm sure you want to change that. And we look forward and obviously wish you guys the best of luck. Ethan, thank you so much for your time tonight. And like I said, good luck from here on out the rest of the season and moving ahead as well.
Thank you so much. Go Dogs.
All right, go Dogs. Ethan Newville, Grandville senior quarterback here on Game Night.
We are Centennial Securities,
an independent firm with a team of committed professionals
who strive to exceed our clients' expectations by giving outstanding service.
We're proud to be part of our community where we live and work.
Gear up this season with the MGN Shop. featuring everything from t-shirts, sweatshirts, hats, and outerwear, to water bottles, stickers, and other accessories that help show off your style and your support of Game Night, the Grandville Bulldogs, and more. To shop, click on the Shop Merch tab at the top of MichiganGameNight.com and browse nearly 50 items. And be sure to check in frequently as new items are added throughout the season. That's the MGN Shop through MichiganGameNight.com.
Upgrade to Music Jams Premium to get uninterrupted listening on all your favorite tunes. Click here to start your 7-day free trial.
If it's important, it's not worth compromising. Which is why with Farmers, you don't have to compromise quality to get great savings on your insurance. I got this.
We are farmers. Bum, 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 bum.
Game Night is presented in part by Farmers Insurance, Bennett Center Agency, for all auto, home, specialty, life, and commercial insurance. See what a Center can do for you. All right, welcome back here to Dawg Pod on the Michigan Game Night YouTube page. Nate Dreyer and Chandler Timmer. And, of course, we did not do this game live, so there's only so much we're going to be able to get into. And actually, this show is going to become much worse. I didn't know that's possible, but it's going to become much worse because we aren't planning on doing a Grandville game live the way our schedule falls until week 8 now. So Michigan Sports Radio teams will have the Hudsonville, the East Kentwood game, the Grand Haven game will be on the Grandville Athletics YouTube page with the student broadcast and so forth. I feel very comfortable leaving everyone to their own devices when the students are there because I'm like, they have 3 cameras, they have a drone in the air, like, it's not even worth us being there sometimes. They do such a good job. So that I don't feel bad about. Obviously, a little sorry the way the schedule worked out that there's not any broadcast of Grandville Jenison this week in terms of with commentators on it. Like I said, we'll put out whatever links that we can find outside of NFHS and whatever. But so there's only so much that we're gonna be able to get into this Rockford game. We both were watching. You know, I was, as everyone knows, I was in Nashville for the IndyCar race, and I rushed back from Friday, so load-in day. Rushed back, got to my hotel, immediately rigged up these Marriott TVs. By the way, this is an aside. I'm talking to the people from Marriott. I was at nice Courtyard Inn, Smyrna, Tennessee. Great, everything was perfect, terrific hotel. So here's my deal. Marriott has decided that all their properties, they're going to put a box on the back of the TV that that's what the remote controls and that's what it's through or whatever. And you can plug an HDMI into it, an external one, but it doesn't actually work.
Okay.
So what you have to do is you have to take the box off. I don't know if this is I think this is allowed.
You hacked the TV? Are you incriminating yourself right
here? I might be. So you have to take the box off. Essentially, if you want to hook a laptop up like I did to put an HDMI to connect it to the big screen, it's a whole process.
Can't do it.
Marriott, fix your crap.
Why did you need to hook up to the TV? What was going on?
To watch the game.
Okay, that's all that was going on.
Yeah.
Okay, good to know.
And because I was there for a long time, and I may have brought my Xbox to try to get better at CFB 25 to beat you for real next time.
Slightly addicted to the game.
Yeah, a little bit. Listen, it was a long week. There's supposed to be a hurricane the whole weekend coming through Nashville, and it didn't rain at all. So I don't know where the weather forecast went there, but it was supposed to rain the whole time, and we were just at the track instead until it did rain at the end of the day.
Okay.
After we'd been there for 12 hours. It was great. Great weekend. Actually, it was a great weekend. Great event. Thank you to everyone at the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix. Terrific job. What were we talking about? The Rockford game.
Yes.
So I got back to my hotel. I fired up, whatever. Okay. So Rockford, I think this is the main thing that we'll look at. And we talked about off the top the idea of this game being a missed opportunity for these two sides. So Rockford is a team that does not make mistakes, and they play for all 4 quarters. They actually didn't even make some mistakes in that first half. They took some bad penalties, but they don't make mistakes. And even though Grandville was pushing them around, they were getting stops and pushing them around early, Grandville did make those mistakes. They fumbled. They gave up punt returns, again, some longer ones. Second half missed tackles. We're going to talk about the second half problems in general on both sides of the football. But at the end of the day, this is an example of a game where Grandville, for the first time this year, frankly, they got the push and they had the advantage on both sides of the ball early. But Rockford can beat you even if they aren't outplaying you, which they did out down the stretch. But like even when they for the whole game don't outplay you, Rockford beats you because they don't make mistakes, and Grandville did. We said it coming in. Grandville cannot make these mistakes. They made them again. They lost the game. It's going to be that simple for the next time they get a chance at them.
Yeah, no, I think you've kind of seen that now from the first couple weeks of the season with the Bulldogs, where they've kind of been flirting right along that line of playing with fire as far as making mistakes, but kind of still staying in the football game, and have had chances to win pretty much every game up until the halftime of the Rockford game, where they're in every game at the end, giving themselves a chance to win, but at the end it's going to come down to some mistakes, and especially when you're unable to finish the comeback or complete the win, and so you start to look back at a lot of those things, a lot of the turnovers, the special teams giving up a lot of extra yardage, defense is unable to get off the field at times. So those things really start to add up when you're in some close games against some really good teams. We've seen them hurt them in the first two games right at the end, and then in this one it kind of took over in the second half because they were able to overcome them once again in the first half for the most part. I mean, when Rockford's making mistakes like that, you got to capitalize. That's kind of where you need to secure the game. You need to jump up and take a couple score lead. Hopefully, in that scenario where the Bulldogs, if Rockford's making mistakes, they usually don't. If they're doing so, that's where we're able to jump them a little bit, and then you can kind of control the game from there out. And so fortunate to have the lead at the halftime, even though they had some of those mistakes. But once that Rockford team kind of cleans things up, and if you keep continuing to make some of the mistakes on your end, that's kind of where things get flipped the opposite way.
I mean, what could have the score? I mean, the score you can add on. I mean, could have it been a 20 to instead of 12-10, could have been 20 to 7 at the half, honestly. I think there's a real argument you can make that you take out, and then, of course, the second half mistakes happen. I mean, really, again, and we'll kind of put this together. We'll talk about it more at the end about next time, which I fully expect there will be a next time. The OK Red is tough, and Grandville, you've now put yourself in a position as Grandville. 5 wins, you're comfortable. 4 wins, we've seen 4-win teams out of the Red the last couple of years make it in. But you're going to have to beat, of this conglomerate of East Kentwood looks really good, Caledonia, Hudsonville, of this remaining crop of really competitive teams you have, you're going to have to win a couple of them. You aren't going to be able to lose them. I mean, if Grandville goes out and they lose every competitive game they play this year, they won't. But they will miss the playoffs then. They're going to have to win a couple of them. And then it's about seeding, too. Yeah. And then you have to, realistically, you have to win out, go 6-3 to have the seeding you want, be able to play a home game the first week of the year, or first weekend of the playoffs. Let's do some pros and cons from this game. Let's start pros. I think, again, the pass game, really solid. And we're going to talk to Ethan Newville, or we did talk to Ethan Newville. Yeah. We haven't talked to him yet in live time, but you've already heard from him. We had a great interview with Ethan Newville just moments ago. He's been a big part of that. Easton Sadinsky has, of course, been a big part of it. Sadinsky has been incredible. 6 touchdowns the last couple of weeks. I think they're doing a good job of working around. There's obviously injuries, to Jay Weiss and others. Matt Key stepping in now for him on the offensive line. And, I think it's a line that is kind of been finding its footing. They've been getting a good push, down the stretch in football games, and even against a big Rockford front line, they did that. But the pass game still has been critical to move the ball, and I think it's the number one element that makes this team a little bit more dangerous than even the last 2 years' offense, despite how similar they may be from the 1,000-foot view looking at them.
Yeah, I think definitely encouraging that it seems to be a capable passing game thus far into the season against some really talented secondaries as well, and that the fact that they're able to throw the football when they've been down a couple scores in the second half. There's been times in the past where you have to throw the football by necessity, and you have to in order to try to keep up, and it just doesn't work as well because the passing game isn't fully developed, or maybe don't have the pass catchers necessary, or the quarterback's not as comfortable dropping back and throwing the football, and so you can see some games get away. But I think a huge part of being able to make some comebacks, staying in some football games, keeping the defense guessing is this passing game and their effectiveness, and that really is a team effort. I think on that side of the football, I think we've seen them be able to throw the football, and it threw some pressure along the defensive line, and that's because of some of the teams they've played have had tremendous size along the defensive line. I think, as you mentioned, was the offensive line for the Bulldogs gets a little bit healthier, and as they start playing some teams and kind of can fully gel and not be just kind of in frantic mode of just trying to survive against the opposing team. I think we can really see them even go probably even further and see some of those playmakers take the next step yet.
Another side of the ball, the first half defense. I mean, you're looking at, they held Rockford to 10 points, and, plus you even count in, some points coming off a fumble, but, got a couple of stops, able to hold them to a field goal after a drive down. I mean, this was a Grandville defense that has not stopped Rockford the last couple years, and they didn't get many stops against Davison. They didn't get many stops against Pick North. They got a couple stops early. They controlled that game defensively, and they flipped things where Rockford got the ball first, but their offense had the lead going into the half. So I think defensively, some massive, maybe it's because they hired the Rockford guy to run the defense, but it's a much different Rockford system when he was there, of course. But I think you put that all together, there's something really positive for the rest of the year too, and how the defense looked in the first half specifically we're talking about.
Right. Yeah, I think in years past, anytime we've had this matchup or the Bulldogs have been going into this game, you're kind of looking at it like you're hoping your defense gets a stop or two, but you're likely going to have to score 40-plus points on offense in order to keep up with them, and that's probably best-case scenario. And I think the positive signs there that the Bulldogs were able to get off the field, hold them to just 10 points in that first half. As we'll talk, I think a little bit more here in just a second, is a slightly different offense from the Rams, and I think that plays a little bit into more of what the Bulldogs are able to do, especially limiting them in the first half. We'll get into some of the second half adjustments and kind of what went wrong there, I think, here in just a second. But no doubt the first half defense, a positive sign, I think something that they can carry forward and are hoping they can replicate if they do meet up again in the playoffs.
Yeah, let's talk about some cons. Let's talk about that second half in particular. I'm trying to find the best way to put it. Everyone, and that's, I don't think the team would necessarily disagree with me. I think everyone, from the coaching staff to each position group, wound up kind of losing their, again, they led at the half. So to go from leading at the half with the football to losing by multiple scores, something had to go wrong, and I feel like Rockford in every facet of the game came out in that second half adjusting better. They got a couple stops. Grandville's offense defense couldn't get a stop. Then the special teams gave up a long return early. It really was kind of surprising, even knowing what Rockford has not lost in the regular season under Coach Cummings. It's not surprising when they win a game, but it was surprising how much they flipped the script, because it really felt like Grandville was going into the locker room, and you had Brock and company on the call, and I think they said, we were nervous or something at the half. I'm like, okay, well, yeah. They do. Great. They've got video and replay, great coverage, but I apologize to the Grandville people if they were mad that you've got the Rockford call and not us on it again. I hear from that every single time when we do a Rockford game. It's part of our agreement with MSR, Brock, and they get the Rockford games, and we have. There's a lot of good things behind the scenes working for us with this deal, so we're going to keep doing it. But no, it's and they certainly. We were both getting shout outs on the air. I was a part of the broadcast. I'm texting stats to them and whatever. I felt like I was the statistician. Probably I'm 3 minutes behind their broadcast, from live, watching it, but. Regardless, second half, digression aside, the second half, everyone on the field and on the sideline in the coach's box, I think Rockford in the head-to-head matchups won it in that second half. I don't know how else to put it.
Yeah, no, I think so. I think you kind of saw everything starting to get flipped as far as the offense starts off, and you get a quick 3-and-out or a couple short possessions on the offensive side, and suddenly this Rockford offense that didn't have a ton going in the first half is on the field a lot more. They run a lot more plays. They're a much more physical team than they have been in the past, and they've got a big offensive line, and I think you start to see some of that wearing down on the Bulldogs defense a little bit, and you give up a score, give up a long punt return, and suddenly things kind of just start to add up, and I think you see a snowball effect of a team that's kind of had your number. You had the momentum at one point, but as soon as you kind of could feel that flip, it was kind of just all headed Rockford's way, and they kind of controlled every facet from there.
Yeah, and it's, I think, you talk like this and you're disappointed in the way you are about this game because it was a game that Grandville had in hand, and if they play right next time, they will win the game. It's that simple. But, I think something after Rockford, they adjusted better. in a lot of cases with some of the different things they brought. We'll talk about some of those adjustments. Grandville, they missed some tackles. There were several times in the open field that there were Rockford guys that it came down to one-on-one making a tackle, and you could have made a stop, and Grandville didn't. The offense dropped some passes they shouldn't have dropped. The offensive line didn't quite get the push. They were dominant in that first half moving the ball. They didn't quite get that push, of course, especially to start the second half and getting them a couple of scores behind. So it's just all these little things that went so well in the first half. They didn't happen in the second half, and you lose the game. And it's going to take all those things to happen for 4 quarters, and you will beat Rockford. One last point I want to talk about, and actually in my 4 Downs column for Michigan Sports Radio, I wrote about this too. There was one point to me that stood out when I think you could kind of feel the game was over and also Rockford's serious, and that was they brought the punt back. Thought it was a touchdown. It got pulled back instead. And Rockford comes out. They line up in a 2 tight end, I think it was I form, with Poot as the deep back. They give it to Poot. They blow the hole wide open. He busts his way to the end zone. And that was the moment. 2 points to this. And we might talk about this on the other podcast too a little bit. But it was, within this game, it was a moment that was like, this is going to be tough. B, high school coaches just outthink themselves so much. And I'm not sitting here telling a former NFL tight end and the best player in maybe the history of Ferris State football, Jason Vanderlaan. I'm not telling him, whatever. I'm just saying, you have the best offensive line maybe in the state of Michigan. Why not just I-form run a little bit more? Right. It's high school. Sometimes, I get you have this really fancy scheme, and it's a college-style spread offense, and it's dynamic when they're playing teams that needs to be dynamic against. But sometimes, why not just run the I-form and run people over with a huge offensive line? So the 2 points. Moment within the game, moment within the context of high school football.
Yeah, no, I think there's no doubt that I think sometimes things can be simplified to some extent. I think the coaching staff argument probably if we're going to make a deep run in the playoffs, we're going to need
that
more.
They got stopped later in the game on running 3 straight times in the I-form.
We're going to need to keep the offense diversified a little bit. But I think no doubt the fact that they were willing to go to that late in the game, and especially against a team like Grandville, that they can kind of have that in their back pocket. They run it out there, they move the football. Okay, what are you going to do if you still out to stop some of the screen passes and spread that they were running earlier? That was kind of hurting the Bulldogs. Well, all of a sudden they're going to line up and they can start running the ball right at you as well. And when they've got that line now, and then they can kind of lean into that a lot more, talented running back as well. And so the fact that they were willing to go to that, the coaching staff and the team had that prepared that they could turn to in that game, in that situation, I think shows the development there of the Rams as they can kind of are looking to take the next step and make a playoff push as well.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, there will be a lot to talk about. I think we'll be talking about Grandville Rockford again, hopefully in a few weeks' time, about 2 months or so here as we get into the playoffs, and we'll see. But a disappointing loss for Grandville, who drops to 0-3, and Grandville now has to win. This is a must-win this weekend. Let's start with that. Grandville travels to Jenison. They take on new coach Josh Lucas, and a Jenison team that won week 1. They've lost twice in a row, kind of struggled in those 2 losses as well, including 38-6 to Hudsonville, who suddenly Hudsonville looking really good with back-to-back wins. But on the 1,000-foot view, Grandville, as we said a moment ago, Grandville realistically has 1 loss that they can afford the rest of the year, and they can't drop to 0-4. This is as pressure-packed of a Jenison game as Grandville has had in a long, long time, and a Jenison team that's much more capable than Jenison teams have been recently.
Yeah, for sure. A lot of factors there. Is we knew going into the season that these first 3 games are going to be really tough, and there was a very high probability that the Bulldogs could be sitting here at 0-3 and still be a really good football team. But and that's nothing against the Bulldogs. That doesn't mean they're a bad team, but the pressure is now on that, you can't drop some of these games you need to win. And I think that's where you start to see if they struggle this week or if they lose, especially this game this week against Jenison. That's where you could kind of see things maybe not fully fall apart, but that's where you start to get a little worried, where it's like it can be tough to lose games like this, the first couple games of the season, and then, of course, to your rival in Rockford. And so it's kind of a big game where, Jenison's probably not the toughest test they'll play. It's definitely not the toughest test they've played, but the pressure's now on where this is a game to get right, get some of those things figured out that have been bugging you the first couple weeks of the season, get some things cleaned up. If you can do that, the opportunity is definitely there to have a successful game and likely win somewhat big, but you need to do it too, and you need to see it on the field, and I think that'll be big if the Bulldogs can do that to get the first win under the belt and kind of get that complete game and hopefully a clean one.
I mean, we went to Hamilton in 2014-15. We know from experience what 0-9, 1-8 snowball looks like.
It can get nasty.
We've seen it. Yeah. In particular, there was a game when they played Byron Center our senior year. I did the game. You didn't call that game.
No.
Praise be for you. And I am friends with several people that were on that Hamilton team. And I think they were just not, there were injuries there or whatever. And for some reason, Byron Center was in Hamilton's conference at the time. It was, I will remember this as long as I live. It was 28-0, 2.5 minutes into the game.
That's impressive.
And they gave up 80.
Yep.
Yeah. Grandville Jenison will stand. This has been a terrible show, keeping on track. So the Jenison system, we'll do a little bit of an overlook. So obviously Josh Lucas comes from Chelsea. We've seen him before. He's a Westman. I think he's a Hudsonville grad, coached at Allegan, then went to Chelsea, won the state championship over Unity Christian. Now he's back. They are building this program from the ground up. They're building it the right way. Yeah. Like the amount of kids they have in their lower level programs is insane. Like Jenison is going to be there. What can you expect schematically from this team? A lot different. So they ran a version of the ski gun the last couple years. It was more of they ran a lot of full house pistol, so more of kind of the Koziak look, but even like taking it to the next level. This is a more of a, I would say it's as close to a college offense as you're going to find, kind of similar to Rockford. It's a spread. In particular, a lot of RPOs. If there's one thing I remember from the Chelsea offense, is a lot of run-pass option plays built in with, bubble screens and slants and run options and so forth. So it's going to be very different. But the thing is, Grandville's defense is going to be well acclimated to stopping this. They've seen this kind of offense for 3 straight weeks now, and now they're going to look at one that, this is not against Jenison, but that has less talent than pick North Davison or Rockford, because everyone has less talent than those 3 teams. So that's probably the good thing for this defense is you got some stops against Rockford. Now you get to see a very similar version in a lot of ways to this college-style spread, but probably just with a bit less talent than D1 quarterbacks like you've seen for most of the first couple weeks here.
Yeah, for sure. I think the Bulldogs defense is probably going to take that, and I think a good opportunity for them to have a similar game plan and it's a lot of the same schematics that they've seen the first couple weeks of the season, but now you can really start to iron things out a little bit. And I think a Jenison team that this is probably the worst you'll see them at for a while, I assume. I mean, I think it's a team that can really build something. How soon they'll be able to compete at the top of the OK Red, I don't know. They're still kind of building that offense, and as you mentioned, the RPOs, those type of things. It takes a while to get everyone on the same page there, and to get a new system anytime fully implemented throughout a school like that is going to take a little bit of time. So they're kind of still building things there, and I think definitely potential for them to really get things going in the future. But for right now, they're still building it, and it's going to be a little bit sloppy. They're going to be still working on some things, and I think an opportunity for the Bulldogs to really capitalize on that.
Defensively for Jenison, I actually don't know what they're going to look like. So Coach Lucas, one of the interviews that we did before the year, he said we're going to play a 4-2-5 defense. I don't know what that looks like against Grandville. So they in the past ran a 5-2. Like their base defense was a 5-2, which you don't see much in modern high school football or football in general, but they didn't really change their system when they played Grandville. They kind of kept it 5 on the front line. They'd sneak a safety down and whatever, but they're going to have to obviously change things a lot. I don't know how many T teams Coach Lucas has played against. Regardless, I'm sure there's someone on the staff that knows what Grandville is. I mean, Jenison's seen them before. So at the end of the day, Grandville's offense needs to get rolling, and it comes down. Jaden Terry had a quiet game. He's got to go. Sadinsky got to keep going. We want to see the tight ends get involved in the pass game more. The X factor is if I'm Grandville, I want DJ Hardiman to have a huge game.
Yeah.
I feel like he's kind of the guy, that Grandville, if you can get the sophomore in the end zone, he hasn't scored yet. If you can get him in the end zone, if you can get him running, build up some confidence. Same with Gavin Love. I think that's going to be big. Maybe rotate through some guys on the line. Like, we know what Wiley. Well, I mean, in general, you've got Weiss out, but we know Wiley and Key, and we know how they're going to anchor things normally, and then the experience in the interior of the offensive line. I think that offense, if Grandville can get the opportunity to be able to roll through some depth and use different guys in different ways without putting too much on tape, I think that's really important.
Yeah, no, I think this is the part of the schedule and some of the teams where you can really learn about the depth of your team and get some guys kind of up to speed as well, where early on in the season when you're in some close games, you kind of just need to rely on what you know, and then early on in the season, that's Sadinsky and that's Jaden Terry, and in these games, you're just going to kind of feed them and go as far as they can carry you. But I think you get into some games where it can be a little bit more favorable, where if you can get a lead early on, that's where you start to get to see some of those other guys get some more touches. I think you can have a big game from Hardiman from the fullback position and get him a little bit more involved. And, of course, those guys at the top are still going to get the football, and I'm sure be making some big plays. But you can kind of get into that depth a little bit and get some guys acclimated to the offense. And then I think that can really pay dividends later on in the season if you can get that rotation going. Really it applies to all positions, whether it's, I think the running back room probably gets a lot of looks because there's 3 of them and they've got a lot of talent, and there's guys that haven't played a ton that have a lot of talent as well. But I think it applies all the way down from quarterback all the way down to the line and defensive side as well. So I think now this is kind of the part where the Bulldogs can kind of start to get into that and not just have to be just everything into trying to stay in the football game and playing against some talented teams like that, where they can kind of start to learn a little bit more about themselves.
A huge chance on the other side of the ball, too, for that secondary is so young. That's the unit that is so young. And, we've seen, Jaden Terry played a lot, Ethan Newville played a lot. But you've got these young guys like Kroll and Brown and, Crater stepping into a bigger role. You've got them out there, and Crater played a really good game against Rockford. But you've got those guys stepping a role, and it's like, welcome to varsity high school secondary. You are going to play exclusively Division I wide receivers for the first 3 weeks.
Good luck.
So now it could be a good chance for them to, like you said. It's a big game where I'm not. Jenison is this is a much better Jenison team than I think we've seen in the last couple years, and they're going to only get better. But again, it's the difference of when you've exclusively seen D1 and GLIAC receivers and quarterbacks and receivers for a couple weeks, or running backs for a week. I think it's a good chance for everyone, kind of depth-wise, to hopefully feel a little bit better about themselves, and then you enter another difficult stretch where you're going to have, first Grand Haven, who beat West Ottawa. They're looking better this year. So, but then, you'll have East Kentwood and Hudsonville and these other games that'll get mixed in there. So, all right, Grandville Jenison this weekend. Like I said, I think it'll be on NFHS Network. We are doing Zeeland East, Zeeland West in the Bird Bowl. So I think it's on NFHS Network. NFHS Network. I don't know how to say that. There might be a huddle stream broadcast through their website. If I find something, I'll disperse it to the people via @MIGameNight on socials, especially probably the X for that. Maybe on the Instagram and then Facebook possibly as well, but the X probably right there. So, yeah. So we're doing Zeeland East, Zeeland West. That'll be fun. More T football.
Yes.
And they're calling 2 T teams next week. So we can do a T every week but one, because we're going to do Reese Puffer, Muskegon. We're going to do a T every week but one this year. So get your handoffs ready and get your call ready. And I don't like doing it. So the thing is, I like doing Grandville because, I feel like I know when I'm watching. I know who has the ball at this point in time. Just the little intricacies of the way Grandville runs. And every once in a while, Eric will throw a little, flip in, and all of a sudden, they're wrong. I'm like, Jaden's got over left guard. I'm like, nope, friggin' whoever was going, down the field the other way. So regardless, we're doing that game. So keep an eye out for that, and keep an eye out for this, and keep an eye out for the show. We'll have another player on next week. Thanks to Ethan this week. We'll have another player next week. We'll have something to break down from this game, going into homecoming, and whatever else. And we'll see if Grandville can beat Rockford next time they play. That'll do it. We'll see you next week, and make sure you check out on YouTube. We'll have Behind the Call coming out a little bit later on this afternoon as well. We'll have John Shillito, head coach, legendary head coach for Zeeland West, on the show. So make sure you check that out as well.